This passion project is supported in 2 different ways. Number 1, through a partnership with Red H Nutrition. If you'll stick around to the end of the episode, you'll hear me interview the owner of Red H Nutrition about one of my favorite products. You can also use code RUNLIFTMOM for 10% at checkout off any Red H Nutrition product. Number 2, it is through my efforts as a Zaya Active independent representative. If you guys want to join my new release text on Wednesdays, I want to keep you running, lifting, and momming instead of stuck to your device screen. You can just go to newreleasewednesday.com. You'll be added, and then I'll send you a text with my new release pick of the week on Wednesdays, and then also a health tip that you can use that day. That's newreleasewednesday.com. Thank you for listening. Welcome to the Run Lift Mom podcast, where we're talking about running, lifting, and momming, not necessarily in that order. Today, I've got something a little bit outside of the box for you because it is audio from a podcast that I myself was a guest on. My friend Anna Keller is the host of the Curiouser and Curiouser podcast, and she is also a brand representative for Beauty Counter. Like Zaya Active, the brand that I represent and that helps financially support this podcast, Beauty Counter is a direct selling brand. In this episode, we talk about our previous opinions on direct selling companies. Spoiler alert, they weren't great. And then we also talk about how we each found our brands and how we operate our business from a relationship place. If you are skeptical of this industry, I really encourage you to listen to this one. If you are considering this industry for any brand, it's also something that I want you to hear. Now, I want to give you a heads up. The audio on this, not great. You guys, I've run it through every filter I could. It's just not that great. So I hope it's not too offensive to your ears because our message is a really, really important one. I apologize for that though. And without further ado, it's me speaking with my friend Anna Keller. Susie, I'm thrilled to be having this conversation with you today. You and I have been talking a lot about this over the last few months, and so I thought it made sense to kind of have this conversation in a more formal way. We're recording it now, and talk a little bit about the journeys that brought us to our roles in direct sales. You know, I think we align in a lot of ways. We have similar philosophies to the way we run our business and kind of how we got here. So I love that we're coming together to share that conversation. So just a little bit of background for the folks listening. Susie and I are both connected with direct sales companies. We're both reps for direct sales companies. We actually connected initially because of your direct sales link through a Facebook party that a mutual friend invited me to. You were hosting it. I think, you know, for me, I was pretty immediately, number one, it was the first time I was introduced to the brand that you represent and was really impressed with that brand, but then also was just really impressed with you. I think I felt a lot of commonality between the ways that we approach our business. And so we've developed a friendship and a professional relationship stemming from that Facebook party. So thank you to AC for inviting me to your Facebook party like a year ago, more than a year ago. And it's really brought something great into my life through you. So just quickly, I'm going to talk a little bit about the businesses that we both represent in case people aren't familiar with those. So let's start with you, Susie. So you are a Zaya Active representative. And Zaya is a brand of activewear. They make clothes for women, for men, for kids that are high performing. I really love, and you can speak a little bit to this too, but really love kind of the philosophy that Zaya is built on. Correct me if I'm wrong, Susie, but Zaya means light.
It does. It's one of our pillars. The company was founded on and continues to make decisions around those 4 pillars. Light, Zaya actually means light in Arabic. Also community, activity, and uplift.
Perfect. Yeah. So I love what the brand is kind of rooted in, and then the clothes are awesome. So that's who Susie is with. And then I am a Beauty Counter consultant, and Beauty Counter is a brand of safe skincare and makeup. We make personal care products as well, things for babies, for kids, for men, for women. And I love that it balances safety. So if you are familiar with kind of the buzzword term clean beauty, very much rooted, actually kind of pioneers in that space, but also holding effectiveness in equal measure. So safe is great, but if the products don't perform, where does that really leave you? So Beauty Counter is really, really committed to bringing really safe and really effective products to the market. So that's just briefly a little bit about the two companies that we are tied to in case people listening are unfamiliar with either of those. We're here today to talk about a topic that is linked to the fact that we're both part of direct sales companies, kind of talking about what brought us here, mainly because neither of us, I think looking back at the 5 year ago versions of Anna and of Susie, would never have anticipated that we'd be where we are today. And so we're going to kind of dig into that. We're going to dig into what we used to think about direct sales companies, how and why that started to shift, and a little bit about the ways that we run our businesses to make it feel really, really aligned with how we want them to run, the people that we want to be in the world. So I'm very excited to jump in with this, Susie. So let's start by kind of going back in our minds. Think about the 5 year ago version of you, Susie. How did she feel about direct sales companies? What were her thoughts?
I thought they were gross. I've just got to tell. So I've been a military spouse for over a decade, and I've been a mom for about 6 years. So by nature of those two things, I'm a target. I'm a target for direct selling companies, and I got a lot of kind of predatory messages. And so I just had this blanket thought that every direct seller was gross because I had been in touch with a handful of bad apples that left a terrible taste in my mouth. And I think everybody out there knows what I'm talking about, right? It's the person that you haven't talked to in 10 or 15 years and they message you on Facebook and you think, oh, awesome, we're going to rekindle our friendship, and they want to sell you something. I had that experience a few times and said, no, gross, no way, never.
Yeah. And did you ever even buy anything from a direct sales company?
Every time someone would approach me, I would say, sorry, as a blanket, I don't buy from direct selling companies. I used the term MLM because it was salty and I knew it would, hit them in the gut. But here's the thing. There were products that I liked, but I remember vividly buying LuLaRoe leggings on eBay. I remember buying Mary Kay through a distributor that didn't really work the business. She just passed her discount on to everybody. There were products that I liked, but I would never be public about it.
That's hilarious. Yeah, it's funny. So I, way back in the day, I went to we're talking high school here, went to a Mary Kay party that a friend of mine had and started I liked a couple of those products, used some of those. But aside from that, really, I kind of shared your mentality of just thinking those things were not for me. I hated that approach. It felt icky. You got all the copied and pasted Facebook messages that she'd sent to 75 other people. There was nothing personal about it, either related to selling. They wanted to sell you products or they wanted you to join their team. And it felt very, very impersonal, very out of the blue. So I just kind of, put them in this very specific column in my mind. And I was like, that's not for me. I don't like that approach at all. And I think I assumed all direct sales companies operated that way. All direct sales reps had that philosophy, and I just didn't really pay attention. I tuned it out.
I'll mention too that I professionally, prior to having kids and being at home with the kids, I was in corporate wellness for about a decade. So military spouse, mom in health and wellness. I got hit up a lot of times. I think social media, though, has changed the space a little bit. I think back to 5 years ago, and it's that's kind of the only route that direct sellers had at the time. So now, of course, my heart's been softened, and I can kind of understand it. But if you're asking me to put myself in 5 years ago shoes, I mean, she was salty and angry and thought direct sales was gross.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me, when and how did that shift start to happen for you? So you didn't love it. You were tuning it out. I was too. But ultimately, you aligned with a direct sales company. Why did that happen?
I will tell you, because Lululemon was out of black fast and freeze. I'm not even kidding you. They were out of stock in my size. I had a race coming up, and to be weather specific, I needed a pair of capri length leggings. And I had recognized the company Zaya. My husband studied Arabic for an Army course, so I knew, like, I recognized the name Zaya. And my friend was selling Zaya. I'd heard the comparisons to Lululemon, and you know what? I got those leggings because my trusty old Lulu was, out of stock. But I think part of me wanted to prove it wrong, wanted to prove there's no way these are as good. And I still remember the workout that I did when I got those leggings. It was a 5K run and 300 kettlebell swings. And when my pants did not budge, and they were every bit as good as the Lulu Fast and Freeze that I loved, that's when my mind changed on the company. And then I think my view on direct sales changed a little bit after that as well, because prior to that, I just thought, remember, predatory messages. I thought, oh, the product's irrelevant. People they want you to join their team. Doesn't matter what they're selling. Well, suddenly the product wasn't irrelevant. And so that's when it changed for me.
Yeah, I have a similar story. Well, that's cool about the leggings. I didn't know that was kind of the turning point for you, but needing them for a race, but kind of a very timing specific thing for me too. I was pregnant with my daughter Maggie. And so, I went to the appointment where they give you the list of foods to avoid while you're pregnant, the sushi, the wine, the things that you expect. But there was also a list of other things, and retinol was on the list because retinol can be linked to birth defects, which I didn't know at all. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, some of the skincare products I'm using definitely have retinol in them. So let's take a look. So I discovered, I kind of started to do some research, and a friend of mine sent me some beauty counter things to try. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, I really like these products, and it's meeting a need in my life. And so similar, I kind of thought, okay, these products are ones that I can really get behind. Actually, I'm really loving them. Actually, I want to use them beyond pregnancy when why not be safe and have this high performance at all points? And so yeah, that was the introduction for me when I was looking for something. I needed something to meet a specific need, and the brand was there for me, and I was really impressed with the performance. So kind of a similar story.
Product led. And it's funny because then, okay, right, when the products get you, then you realize the great service that you're getting from folks that are likely your friends, or creating some sort of dialogue around and then you're like, man, the product is every bit as good or superior, and I'm getting this really awesome customer service from someone that I can trust and that is willing to say, nah, you don't want that, or hey girl, this is the best. It's the service part follows that as well, because I'll say, I bought those Zaya leggings and I didn't touch any other direct sales brand for a little bit after that. But then when I did kind of enter this world and start buying through some of my friends' stuff I was buying anyway, I realized, wow, it's the service too that I'm not getting at Target, that I'm not getting from Amazon.
Same. I totally agree. And like you, I think I started to then all of a sudden have a lot more awareness of, I started paying attention to some direct sales brands and realizing, oh, I love these products. There are probably other products that are sold through a direct sales model that I could also really love. And now, talk about convenient, when I can send you an Instagram message and say, okay, I love these leggings. What size should I get? Or I can send my friend who sells Stella and Dot a quick text and ask her, does this charm thing come off this bracelet? I really love it. I want to personalize, very specific questions that you would never get from someone at Target, for sure. And yes, so I am also a big fan of that one-to-one customer service that comes along with these relationships. Very cool.
Yeah.
So you fell in love with the product, and then what made you decide to take it a step further and actually become a rep?
My husband I mentioned he's in the Army, and it's called GeoBatch, when for the family's convenience, the service member will live elsewhere. And for my husband, it happened to be 1,000 miles away in Kansas. I'm located in North Carolina. And so he was leaving for a full year to go to an Army school. So I knew I wanted something to distract myself in a positive way, and I chose Zaya. I actually joined with the intention, I said, I'm I'm going to fail fast. I'm going to give it 6 months. This is either going to be a thing or I'm going to bow out gracefully. And I probably knew about 3 or 4 months in, okay, this is going to be a thing. But yeah, I wanted something productive and positive to do with my time.
I love that. Yeah, for me, I I really signed on because a good friend of mine was selling the product, and so at this point I'd fallen in love with the product, and she suggested I join for the discount. And so for me, it was like, yeah,
so you were a kidnapper?
Right. Yeah, I was like, I can get on board with that. So I'll save 25% on these products that I'm already ordering. And I didn't have much. I didn't quite know what I was going to do with that. Like, and I also thought, well, I have a blog, like I'll share it a little bit. It's already very much in my nature to share things that I love, to share things that I've discovered and have made my life better, easier, whatever. But I don't know. I just didn't think too much about it. I was like 7.5, 8 months pregnant at the time that I joined. So kind of a lot of life stuff going on, but the timing ended up being great because I joined and then pretty quickly, started sharing the brand just in very small ways, and pretty quickly realized I love this. And people are responding just like I had to the products. Once they were in their hands, once they were using them, they were falling in love too. I was realizing that I loved being able to offer that really customized, personalized customer service. And then I was on maternity leave. And so I was able to use a lot of my maternity leave time. Thankfully, Maggie was a great baby. They sleep a lot at the beginning anyway. And so I got good time with her, but I also had these pockets of time where I could work on my business. And so that ended up really great. I was able to lay this foundation for Beauty Counter. And before I knew it, I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't, like, it sounds so corny, but I can't imagine my life without this now. It's a really big part of who I am and what I bring to the world. So
I think there's something to be said for a product that can fit into your lifestyle, right? As opposed to the other way around. Like for me, I know there are some really great, Beauty Counter has some great makeup, but I mean, there are some makeup specific companies out there that are fantastic and high quality. But here's the thing, I've got kids hanging from me at every moment and I'm running it, any spare time I get. I just got off the treadmill and right after this, I'll go get a couple more. I never wear makeup. Activewear, on the other hand, that fits into my life. And so there's something to be said for choosing a product that fits into your lifestyle.
I totally agree with that. I think that's important. And because, that way people sense the authenticity. You know what's authentic and what's a real representation of you and your life and your lifestyle versus something that's kind of like a square peg in a round hole situation. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what happened when you joined and you started sharing with people this news. Like, hey, I am a former direct sales hater. Now I'm on board. I'm representing a company of all things. How did people in kind of your inner circle who knew the old you respond to that?
Right. And let me reemphasize, I was a direct sales hater. How you'll get your memories on Facebook? There are multiple times I'll look and it's 5 years ago, I shared some screenshot of a spam message somebody sent me and just said some salty, awful thing. And so I announced my business. And in that first week, I had a great friend is someone who will tell you what you need to hear instead of what you want to hear. And including that connector friend that we have, they said, hold on, Susie. You can't say all these awful things, make all these blanket statements, and then expect that everything's okay because you joined a company like this. And so I spent my first 2 weeks of my Zaya business making phone calls and having one-on-one conversations, apologizing to a lot of these women that I know I hurt. Some of them did not remember it. Some of them did. It was not easy. It was eating crow for the first couple of weeks. But you know what? Everyone, 100%. I made a lot of phone calls those first couple of weeks. Nothing to do with my business. In a way, it did. I needed to do that for myself. All of these women who some of them are still involved in direct sales, some aren't, they all gave me advice. Here's what I'd do if I were you. They all encouraged me that, I know this call was hard for you to make, but here's what, and they gave me a lot of great advice that helped me build an honest business with a good foundation. So I'd love to tell you it was well received. It wasn't. It wasn't. But that's okay, and that's part of my story, and I believe that I needed that to be, where I am talking to you about it now.
Yeah, well, and what a great place to start where you're acknowledging that this transition is an interesting one for you and kind of doing that important work. And then I love that it resulted in advice. Something that I found in my experience with direct sales and people not just within the company that I'm affiliated with but other ones too, it tends to be a very open community where people
Mhm.
are willing to share their experiences, willing to give you advice. And so that's neat that you experienced that so early on.
It really is, and I'm tickled now thinking of, I mean, we met through it was a Facebook virtual event hosted by one of those women that raised their hands and said, "Hold on, Susie, this is not consistent with the tune that you've been singing for the past few years." And I'm appreciative to her for that, and also for this relationship.
Yeah, I love that. And so yeah, so you kind of did that. And then tell me, like, how did your how did your core customers start to come together? And I mention this because I think it's interesting. I've heard this from so many women, that sometimes just to kind of like to set expectations, the story can be different for different people, but a lot of times it's not necessarily your close friends and family who are like, yes, I'm on board, I'm going to be buying from you right away. And so sometimes it's like you kind of have to, go a little bit further than that inner circle as you're getting started.
Right.
It's not the case for everyone. It was the case for me. What about you?
I did my very first kind of practice in person event with my family, at my family reunion. But outside of that, I mean, you'll hear it commonly referred to in the direct sales world as your warm market, i.e., the people that you know, your family and friends. Open up your phone. Who have you texted in the last 2 weeks? That's your warm market. I did not start there. And probably some of that was due to the shame that I felt for saying all these awful blanket things about industry and then joining said industry. Not start in my warm market. I actually started a couple of degrees outside of my warm market. And then slowly but surely, those folks, the family, the friends, they trickled in and became customers as well. But I mean, and good or bad, right? Like sometimes it's more comfortable to kind of begin in that network, but I kind of did the opposite. And I'm glad that I did because it allowed me to take some courageous steps from the beginning. It allowed me to perfect my pitch, so to speak. That way, when I was talking about the brand with people that I love and that I would give the key to my house to, I felt confident and I had legs that I could stand on.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think that's true. There is something to be said for that. It kind of forces you in a really good way to take some approaches that you maybe wouldn't have feel like you had to make if your family was like, "Oh yeah, I'm bankrolling your business. You're good."
Right, right. I used to, in a former life, I sold yellow pages. I'm dating myself for your audience here, but I sold yellow pages. And what we would do is we would go into a city and we sold yellow pages for universities. So you would think that for said universities, we would start right at the campus back door, right? Like if we're in Chapel Hill, we'd start on Franklin Street. No, that is not what we did. What we did was actually started from the farthest point out, and then we worked our way in. And the idea again was that we could get good by the time it really mattered. We were good and we knew how to, do that consultative sale. Look, it is inadvertently that was not the strategy that I intended to do. But as I reflect on it, I think that's kind of how it worked for me. So I would encourage people a lot of times with direct sellers, if we don't get an immediate great response from our warm network, from our friends and family, we're like, "Oh man, my sister doesn't like these leggings. Forget it. This Zaya thing's for the birds." I would encourage people to go outside of that warm network and find your voice. I promise your warm network folks, those folks in your text messages, they will come around when they see the customer base that you've built and the lives that you're changing. And yeah, you are changing lives when you help someone feel confident with their skin or their beauty, or when you're selling them a sports bra that they do their first 5K in. That kind of stuff, it will come full circle.
Yeah, I think you're right. And finding, I mean, something drew you to the brand, right? So harnessing what that special thing is, what unique voice you have within that company. And you're right, it comes with practice, it comes with time. You kind of get your sea legs, and then that helps build some really great momentum that your company, that your business can really build from. I think that's a really, really good point. All right, so let's talk about today's version of you. So you're 18 months now into Zaya. It was not a 6-month situation for you, as it turns out. It's been much longer than that. And we've talked about this a little bit, but what are some of the things, like we talked about the customer service piece, what are some other things that you think make the direct sales model different and special from buying from companies in the conventional way that most of us are used to?
Well, I mean, obviously the customer service there. I'll tell you, I mean, I'm 18 months in. For me as a representative, for someone who sells this brand, it is a game changer professionally. It is a professional itch I didn't know I needed to scratch. I'm a military spouse for a decade, master's degree, lateral entry, or lateral moves all day long. Nobody is going to hire someone who works remotely from a VPN and can only go to the office every quarter. They'll hire them. They're just not going to promote them to leadership or anything like that. And so I love that indirect sales on the representative side. If you want a promotion, you go for it. Anna, if you and I were in the same organization and we wanted the same promotion, it's not like there's one job slot and we're both going to interview for it and one of us is going to get it. We can both go for it at the same time. And there's that wonderful abundance mindset. I think as a consumer, I am a customer of a lot of direct sales brands now. And something that I didn't realize before was how hard people work. There's this misconception that with direct sales, right, you sign up and then you just, put your feet up and kick back and all the commission comes rolling in and you sign people up under you and you're just kicking it and collecting a huge paycheck. And that is not it. I know a lot of the 6-figure earners in our company are personal friends of mine. I am not one of those, but they're personal friends of mine. And these women work hard. They work every bit as hard as the leaders in, when I was in a corporate role. So my perception has changed in those two different ways. It's a career path that I didn't realize existed, and it doesn't make sense for everyone. Makes sense for a lot of folks. But then also on the consumer side that this is honest work and people are working. And the customer service really is an example and illustrates that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And then too, I think on the customer side, you see just as much, if not sometimes more, product development, evolution, some really cutting edge things that are happening within direct sales companies. They understand that they need to keep up with the market too. And so, and there's some really, I think, fun and interesting ways that those brands choose to do that, like how Zaya has new releases every single Wednesday. And so I always tune in to see what's come out, and it kind of keeps things fresh and new. And I don't know. I just think that there's a lot to be said for that too. I think that, neither the companies nor the representatives are well, here are our product offerings, everyone come get them. There's some evolution on both sides of those. And then too, and this is more of an internal thing, but kind of building on what you said with the fact that there's room at the table for everyone. It's been this amazing community of women. I had no expectation of that piece of it when I joined as a consultant. And now it is such a huge part of what I love about being part of this business. It's like we have our annual leadership conference is coming up in about 6 weeks, and everyone's it's gonna be like summer camp. We can't wait to see each other. And just these relationships that I've built with these women that, number one, I never would have met otherwise. And number two, are only about encouraging and sharing with one another. So it's all about support, all about the fact that everyone has room to succeed. And so let's talk about this piece a little bit too, because I do think, whether you are interested in buying from a direct sales company or even curious about joining one, I do think because it is such a personal relationship within either of those contexts, the fit is very important. So whether I'm choosing you as my rep or I'm choosing you to consider joining your team, I do think it's important to find somebody make those decisions intentional ones. Make sure that it's kind of a good fit so that you can have this experience of like that you and I have had of it being a really
Right.
positive thing. Because I do think and I still see now, of course, like I'm an advocate for direct sales companies, but I still do see people affiliated with direct sales brands and they're not running their businesses in ways that I would feel comfortable running mine, or they're still kind of more in that what I would consider spammy space. And like that's okay. They can do it however they want to. I just want to bring up the fact that you still do need to be a little bit discerning, I think, just like you would with any brand, but this becomes a little bit more personal. So,
Right.
um, you know,
I equate it to, I mean, I'm a marathon runner. And so if I'm hiring a coach to help me level up my game in a race, to guide me toward a race outcome that I want, I'm not picking the first coach that I Google. I'm doing some interviewing. I'm seeing who's a good fit for me in terms of communication and their foundational beliefs behind running volume and workouts. And I mean, there are a lot of things to consider. And so I think, for joining a company, it's very, very similar. A lot of folks that I know that aren't happy in direct sales and aren't smiling and talking about the abundance mindset like we are, it's typically because they signed up under someone who then ghosted them. And guess what? I love my company, Zaya. We are good people. There are some bad eggs, and that's unfortunate. But you know what? That the bad eggs don't have longevity in the business, so that it has its way of working things out.
right. Yeah, that you put it very well. And that I just kind of wanted to bring that up. Like if you've had a bad direct sales company experience, I would encourage you to not necessarily write them all off just because
Right.
of that one bad experience. Like give it another try, and find somebody who's going to be who's just really good at and committed to running their business in a way that makes sense to you. So,
Right.
all right. Perfect. So, what do you think makes somebody a good fit for direct sales? I think one of the neat things is there is room for a whole lot of different personality types, different backgrounds, different lifestyles. But what are some qualities that you've seen as you've been in the role of mentor or just kind of within your company? What things have you seen kind of be key characteristics that make somebody successful within this type of business?
I'll mention a couple of things. And the first is a little bit more tactical, and it's that it's that you've got to like creating content and sharing some personal things. People buy from folks they know, like, and trust. And if they can't get to know you, if I haven't seen Maggie on your news feed, I don't feel like I'm really connecting with you. And so you don't have to, it's not like open book style, right? You can have some things be personal, but if someone doesn't like creating that content wherever they intend to do business, look, if you want to do direct sales, you need to learn social media. You need to learn it somewhere. It's free. It's awesome. It's changing the game. But like, if you're copying and pasting from your company's website, that is not personal. And so you've got to like to create content. But more important than that, I think you have to own a serve then sell mentality. I have many, many friends in my network that feel like 5 years ago Susie did. And you know what? That is fine with me. Not everybody needs to buy leggings from me. It's totally fine. I'm in the business of serving, then selling. I do it with my podcast, the stuff that is on my social. I mostly hang on Instagram, and I help fitness-minded moms make the most of their day. They want a race, and a marathon seems insane on limited time. I'm going to tell you the tips and tricks how to do it. I don't care if you buy a spiritual bra from me or not. I think serving, then selling. I see you do it all the time, Anna. I know what you're reading. I know styling tips from you. I see parenting hacks and healthy meals. You serve then sell as well. But I think that is the foundation that someone needs to be successful. Because then when a sales number isn't hit or a rank isn't hit or whatever, you're not measuring yourself on those things that are whatever. They're fluid. They're vapid. You're serving. Who are you serving? And that is much more significant work than selling X number of leggings or skin creams.
I could not agree more. And I do think that that's what brings in, from a customer standpoint, that significance. Like when I think about the the role that I serve for my customers, I hope it's that one. I hope it's that I'm helping them in some way, that I'm encouraging them, that I'm adding value to their lives, even in a small way. Those small things can be actually pretty big. And I almost feel like I owe it to my customers. I'm sure you might feel this way too. It's like I am so appreciative for their support and their trust in me. So the least I can do is try to, share, whether it's skincare and education knowledge that I've learned because of my connection to Beauty Counter, or just other pieces that feel helpful in my life and might be helpful to others too. I feel like they deserve to hear those things too.
Right. I talk with a lot of people that say, oh, well, that's cool. I mean, like, you've got all this stuff to share. You have this knowledge about running, but I mean, my life is boring. I don't have anything to share. And I just want to encourage listeners out there that might be considering something like this. There is a lot of value in creating a safe space online, be it on Facebook or Instagram or wherever, a safe space where just connection is happening, especially among women our age. So we feel like we're being judged or that we're having to compare. And if you can create that safe space by sharing, being a good friend, and being encouraging, that's the value that you have to give, and that's how you can serve and then sell.
Yep, I totally agree. I think that's really special. Well, and you've done such a good job at that. And I do think you're right. It's like most things kind of, you can certainly stay in your lane with this. Like you don't have to be looking at other people and worrying that I don't run marathons. How am I going to create content like Susie's? Well, that's not the point. Don't create content like Susie's. Create content that makes sense for you. And then it will be much more enjoyable for you to create, much more authentic, which then will draw in the right people for your community.
We've got a Zaya rep who is in her 70s, and she showcases. I'm not her ideal customer if I didn't sell Zaya, but she's in her 70s and she's doing the retirement thing and she's doing the grandkid thing, and she showcases an active lifestyle and how somebody's life is not at the end when they're in their 70s. It's totally different content than what I give my audience, but it's so cool that she's taken the same business, the same products, and really made it her own.
That is so cool. I love hearing that. Well, yeah, I think this has been a really fun conversation for me to have because, like I said, it's one that we've kind of had in fits and spurts a little bit. And so it's been really nice to dedicate like a good chunk of time to talking about this, learning a little bit more about your background with your business and just digging in a little bit deeper. What if you were sitting across the table from the 5-year ago version of you, what might you tell her about direct sales, knowing what you know now? If you had to kind of leave her with one key thought.
I would say, Susie, get over yourself. For real, I would tell her to drop the ego and to soften her heart. I'll emphasize again, a lot of women and men that work in direct sales, they're working really hard. This is not pick it and build a team and collect a paycheck. They're working to serve their audience. They're working to provide for their families. And I think if I would have taken a second to speak to those folks like I did my first couple of weeks of having my own, had I had those conversations prior to joining, it would have been completely different. So I would have said, get over yourself.
Yeah, I think so too. And like, maybe my message would have been to give them a chance. Like, give them a chance to show you what this model can look like and the amazing benefit that it can bring to your life if you let it. So. Yeah. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you again, Susie. This has just been a blast. And thanks for sharing your experience with us here today.
Likewise, I've loved chatting with you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Anna for sharing this audio with me. I think it's a really good example of the abundance mindset that exists in direct sales, obviously transferring over to the podcast world. She could have just published it and called it a day and driven everyone to her podcast, and instead she's sharing with me as well. I appreciate your friendship and the mastermind style business thing we have going on there, Anna. If you guys are interested in speaking with either Anna or myself, about our brands, of course, I'm going to put the information in the show notes. Otherwise, I just want you to hear this and maybe your heart will be softened as well. This episode is intended to put nobody into a headlock and make you join. It's intended to make you look at direct selling differently. And until I get into your earpiece again, for while bodily training is of some value, godliness is of value in every way, as it holds promise for the present life and also for the life to come. That's from 1 Timothy 4:8, and this has been the Run Lift Mom podcast. All right, I've got Katie Danger with Red H Nutrition. Katie, we know that good health starts in the gut. Can you tell me a little bit about adaptogenic symbiotic?
Yeah, I'm going to reiterate your point, Susie. Health starts in the gut, and that's why the adaptogenic symbiotic is so important. It's complete digestion support. We've got the 3 most abundant gut flora for the probiotics. So we've got 6 billion CFUs, colony-forming units. We have a prebiotic fiber, which helps feed those probiotics so they can do the job they need to do. And then we also have invertase included, which helps with any bloating and gas and indigestion you may be experiencing. So we've got this proactive approach and we've got the reactive approach. So if anybody's experiencing any gas, bloating, or just wants additional digestive support, the adaptogenic probiotic is the all-in-one solution for that.
Hey, Run Lift Mom listeners, you know I'm the mom of 4 kids under age 5, and therefore I am always looking for ways to work smart, not hard. Anchor is the smartest way to make a podcast. Let me tell you why. First of all, there are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, but Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you, so then it can be heard on places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a whole lot more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It is quite literally everything you need all in one place. And y'all, it's free. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Thank you for listening to the Run Lift Mom podcast. This show began as a passion project in February 2019 as a way to uplift other women in the areas of running, lifting, and motherhood. I have been blessed by this project, over 30,000 listens, and I have great relationships with the guests who have come on this show, as well as you, dear listener. Listeners, if you can rate, review, and subscribe, that really helps other folks find the show. Also keeps my show sponsors happy. Thank you for being a part of the Run Lift Mom podcast.